The rain was falling hard across the empty plains, like 1,000 small whispers against the wooden roof of the ranch. Samuel, a solitary rancher, sat by the dim glow of a kerosene lamp, staring at the steam rising from his cup of tea. Outside, the wind howled like a beast that couldn't find rest. It was one of those nights when time itself seemed to hold its breath. He had been alone for years now, his wife gone, the fields shrinking, the cattle fewer every season. The land had grown heavy, old, and haunted by silence. Then came the knock. At first, he thought it was the wind. But then it came again, slow, deliberate, unmistakable. He frowned, took the lantern from the table, and walked toward the door. When he opened it, the rain and cold rushed in, along with a vision so strange that for a moment he thought he was dreaming. 4 women stood in the rain. They were barefoot, their hair wet and clinging to their faces, their dresses of simple cloth molded to their forms by the storm. Around their necks hung wooden charms and stones, and each wore a headband of braided thread. Their eyes were dark, too dark for ordinary people, and yet not unkind. Samuel froze. "Are you lost?" he asked. His voice cracked in the damp air. The woman in the middle took a step forward. "No, Samuel. We're not lost. You are." He blinked, confused. "Do I know you?" "You did," she said. "Long ago, before this house, before this fence, before you called this land yours." Samuel's fingers tightened around the lantern's handle. Something about her voice felt ancient, like it belonged to the soil itself. "This land," she continued, "was once a promise, and promises are not meant to be forgotten." The words cut through him. He had heard stories, old ones, passed down through his father, about how the land once belonged to an Apache tribe, how a treaty was made, then broken. His family had always avoided speaking of it, as if silence could erase guilt. "Come inside," he said finally. "You're all soaked." The women exchanged brief looks and then stepped inside. Their wet footprints glistened on the wooden floor. The lamp's flame flickered as though uneasy in their presence. Samuel closed the door, shutting out the roar of the storm. The air inside grew heavy. The smell of wet earth and something faintly sweet, sage or cedar, filled the room. He turned toward them. "What do you want from me?" The woman in the brown dress, the only one whose color differed, spoke softly. "We've come to remind you. This land remembers, even when men do not." "I don't understand," he said. "Your family took what was not freely given," another said. "But the earth has its own balance. You felt it, the dying crops, the sick cattle, the restless nights. The land is asking for its story back." Samuel's heart pounded. He had never spoken of it aloud, but it was true. For 3 seasons now, his farm had been cursed by drought and rot, though the skies poured rain on his neighbors' fields. He had prayed, cursed, and worked harder than ever, but nothing changed. "What are you?" he whispered. "We are what remains," said the first woman. "The daughters of those who once walked here. The sisters of the wind. We come not for vengeance, but for truth." Her eyes locked with his. They glimmered like the reflection of stars on still water. "Then tell me what I must do," he said. They stepped closer. The rain outside seemed to fall slower, as though time itself bowed before their presence. "There was a spring," one of them said, "beyond the norte pasture. Your father buried it beneath stone and timber, saying it was cursed. But it was not. It was sacred. It fed this valley for generations. Uncover it, Samuel. Set the water free again." Samuel felt a chill creep up his spine. He remembered the place, an old patch of ground covered with weeds and dead wood. His father had forbidden him from going near it, saying bad spirits lived there. "And if I do?" The woman in brown smiled faintly. "Then perhaps the land will forgive, and you will not be alone anymore." Something in her tone, gentle yet infinite, made him shiver. He nodded slowly. "Atidon, Ilgo." The women exchanged glances, their faces softening. "You must go now," one said. "The night is watching." He looked outside. The storm was still raging, but the world beyond the door seemed different, darker somehow. You can stay here till morning, he offered. They all smiled, the same faint, knowing smile. We do not stay, the eldest said. We only remind. Before he could speak again, they turned toward the door. When he opened it for them, the rain seemed to part like a curtain. Lightning flashed, and in that moment, they were gone. Not walking away. Gone. Only the sound of the wind and rain remained. Samuel didn't sleep that night. As soon as the storm eased, he took a shovel and a lantern and walked out toward the north pasture. The earth was soft from the rain. He found the old stones his father had once laid, half buried under weeds and moss. As he began to dig, the wind grew colder. The air hummed with something alive, unseen but near. Then, his shovel struck wood. Beneath it lay a slab, an old weathered plank carved with strange symbols. He brushed the mud away and saw them clearly now. Markings like waves, circles, and spirals. He lifted the wood aside. A sudden breath of cool air rose from the hole, carrying with it the scent of water. Fresh, ancient, pure. The ground trembled softly, as if exhaling. From the darkness below, a trickle of water began to flow, then another, and another, until a small stream bubbled up, glistening under the moonlight that broke through the clouds. Samuel fell to his knees, overwhelmed. When he looked up, they were there again, the four women standing a few yards away, their dresses dry, their hair gleaming under the pale light. You've done well, said the one in brown. Now the balance can return. He wanted to thank them, to ask who they truly were, but words failed him. The air shimmered around them, like mist caught in moonlight. Will I see you again? He finally managed. When the land forgets once more, one of them said gently. Until then, live kindly with what breathes beneath your feet. They began to fade, becoming one with the night, until nothing remained but the sound of the newly freed spring. In the days that followed, everything changed. The stream widened, feeding the soil. The grass grew greener, the cattle stronger. The earth, once dry and angry, began to sing again. Samuel felt it. Every morning when he stepped outside, the air seemed lighter, kinder. People from the nearby town came asking about his sudden good fortune, but he only smiled and said, "The land remembers kindness too." At night, sometimes, he thought he heard voices in the wind, four soft tones humming an ancient melody. He would look out the window toward the northern pasture, where the moonlight danced on the water, and whisper his thanks. And though he never saw them again, he knew they were there, watching, waiting, guarding the promise that had finally been kept. The lonely rancher was lonely no more. For in the heart of the land, and in the echo of the rain, for forgotten spirits had come home.